Donald Trump will face criminal sentencing in that New York trial where he was convicted. Judge Merchan ruled on that today. This is one of those days where we end the week and the new year. We knew Congress would be picking its speaker. We didn't know we would get this new decision, which tees up Donald Trump's sentencing, even without jail, for next Friday. I'm joined now by Che Comanduri. Che, welcome. It's not quite a full Che day. Good to have you. As you know, Che days have a logic all of their own. But it is going to lead to a Trump sentencing day. And I'm curious what you think about this development. I quoted the New York Times. For those who want all of one thing or the other, both sides would be disappointed. You don't get the ultimate reckoning of all the criminal cases that Trump faced. He ran out the clock on most of them. You don't get jail time. On the other hand, for those who say, well, none of this was real, it was all a witch hunt, nothing was proven, quite the opposite. Whether this generation or future generations care, this was a trial where he was convicted. He will be sentenced. As people know, there are many cases that don't always involve jail in the sentencing, but that is New York's resolution of this as a criminal matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a instinct, I think, on a lot of people, particularly a lot of Democrats, to say, okay, this is in the past. We should stop talking about it. We should never mention this again. I think that would be a terrible mistake. I think that we need to talk about this case, and we need to continue to talk about this case. And we need to talk about the fact that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. It is a matter of public record. It has occurred. It does not stop him from being inaugurated as president on January 20th. But it will certainly be part of the record of Donald Trump, and it should be part of the political argument against Donald Trump. I mean, part of the frustration I've had about this is Democrats never talked about this. They never wanted to discuss this. And the issue here wasn't necessarily Trump's criminality. It is Trump's hypocrisy. And we're going to see that in this administration. We're going to see an administration that is going to very much want to be in the bedrooms of Americans, that wants to control access to birth control, that wants to control access to reproductive rights. They want to get involved in your personal affairs. They're going to curb back LGBTQ rights. All of those things are going to happen in this presidency. Let's talk about what happens in Donald Trump's own personal life and Donald Trump's own bedroom. This is sheer hypocrisy. This is a Bible salesman. This is somebody who is the choice of Mike Johnson and the evangelical right, who has conducted himself in this manner that is both criminal and, by the tenets that he claims to uphold, deeply immoral. It's something that we should have talked about more, and it's something we still can talk about more.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear you say that because Trump has had this journey and he returns to the White House, and we all know a lot of that. But, you know, Bill Clinton had 2 terms in the White House, and the Republican apparatus did not tire of efforts to use various legal processes. Some of them were fully lawful. Some of them may have actually skirted it, and everyone can debate what is politicized law or not. But they certainly never tired of saying, well, Whitewater didn't lead to anything, or bringing in aides to testify didn't lead to anything. We better just drop it, or this isn't, quote, working. And so it speaks to some sort of difference in the political energies or psychologies in a way that what you just described. Again, I'm making a political observation mixed with the legal underpinning, but the legal part is done in this case. He was convicted, and it very well may be fair that he was convicted, which is how New York deals with this, but that he doesn't immediately go to jail because he's a first-time offender and these were business issues. But how do you see that contrast to the sort of relentless approach on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about what happened with Bill Clinton, I mean, the Republicans went relentlessly against him, and it very much hurt Al Gore. Al Gore was very much hurt by the sense that there were all these Clinton scandals, and we needed to change and turn the page. And George W. Bush said, I'm going to restore honor and integrity to the Oval Office. You know, I remember Chris Matthews, who was on this network and once had the show that was after this, saying, you know, Bill Clinton took the bath and Al Gore got the bathroom ring, you know, and that was a result of a sustained Republican attack on those issues. And it did matter. It mattered very much when, you know, Bill Clinton's scandals, all of those things were attacked, and it caused a sense among the electorate that they have to turn the page. We just never really did that with Donald Trump, unfortunately.